Hello everyone, welcome to Business Core Tutoring. I'm Devon Coombs and today I'm going to cover resume tips and techniques. So for those of you who don't know anything about me, I am studying to be a CPA and last year I applied to over 7 internships in public accounting for auditing. And with my resume, I was able to get interviews at every place that I applied. So I spent a lot of time researching how to make a great resume, and I'm going to give every single tip I have to you today in this video. So this is going to be a lot of useful stuff. I'm also going to attach my resume below so you can use my format and just alter it. But I'm going to give you everything I know to make sure that you can make a great resume. I spent hundreds of hours on resumes. I'm pretty compulsive and I work on stuff so much. And I'm going to try to give you all that information in about 10 minutes. So stick with me. I think this is going to be very useful for you. So there's 4 real big parts of a resume: your format, your audience, your content, and your form. And I'm going to go into depth about all of that. And in content, we have to talk about our education, our work experience, our volunteer work, our professional development, and other aspects of our lives in our resume. And I'm going to go into detail about all of that stuff. So let's keep moving forward. So when I'm talking about format in a resume, what I'm talking about is paying attention to detail. You want to make sure all of your spaces are even, that you have good tabs on everything, that you're using good formatting in Word. Well, obviously, I hope that you'll be using Word to edit your resume. I hope you're not writing this by hand. But you have to pay attention to detail. So you want to fix your margins and fit as much information on the page as possible. So let's jump over to my resume real quick. This is an example of my resume. I'll have it attached to this document, to this video. But I want you to go to home and then turn on your marks. And you should be editing with your marks on. So if you're editing with your marks on, you can see here that all of my spacing, all of my tabs, all of my margins are purposeful. Everything is lined up very cleanly. I don't come over here and just tab across and have to press tabs and try to figure out how much to space. I see that a lot. People will tab, and then space until they can get these words right aligned. What you have to do is you have to go use some of your word skills, make a right tab, drop the right tab where you want it to be. So it's right tab, click, get it over here, and then when your right tab is aligned, it'll jump right for you. That way you're very clean. Your formatting is very, very nice. You want it all to be lined up on the right side. All of your months, all of your expected graduation dates. You want everything on the left side to be aligned as well. You want spaces in between dashes, or to not do spaces, but you don't want to switch between spaces and no spaces. You want to be purposeful. People can pay attention to these things. People can see this. I can see this when I get tons of resumes from friends. People come to me and say, hey, do I have a good resume? And I can see right away if the spacing is strange, if their words are different sizes or different fonts. This stuff is noticeable, and most jobs like attention to detail. So make sure you're on top of that. Also, only 1 page if you're a student. Recruiters don't want 2 pages or more if you're a student. Just do 1 page and fit as much information as possible. You probably don't have that much job experience, and if you do, you probably don't have that much relevant job experience. Only make it 1 page. For advanced applicants, you can make it 2, but I hear mixed results on that. I hear try to make it 1, and then if you're applying for like an executive job, then potentially 2. But try to stick to 1 page. If you're in college, keep the education on the top of the format. If it's your first job out of college. If it's future jobs, keep your work experience on the top. Always make it aesthetically pleasing and clean, and make your formatting consistent. So let's go back to this real quick so I can explain all of what I just said. Again, you can see this is clean. It's center aligned on the top. You get all of my information. You get my address, my email, my phone number. That was purposeful. I went over tons of different fonts and tons of different formats. I made these highlighted boxes. I listed education first, again, purposefully. I listed California State University Northridge first, and my expected graduation date and my CPA eligibility date. We'll go into detail about all this information, but I want you to see how purposeful and with what intention I had my formatting. It's very clean. I look at it from far away, I look at it from close up, and it looks nice on a page. So pay attention to your formatting. People will look at your resume and will want to see that it's clean, that it's formatted properly, and that it looks nice to the eye, that you put some time into it. Why would they want to hire you as a candidate if you're not going to even put in time to your resume? So that's formatting. Next, you want to consider your audience. I had a lot of jobs before I went into accounting. I worked as a bartender, as a bar back, as a server, in promotions. I did a lot of stuff. And every resume was different. If I applied to an accounting job with my restaurant resume, I would have never gotten an accounting internship. If I applied to a restaurant with my accounting resume, they would think I was overqualified. So you have to consider your audience when you write content. I have lots of other jobs that I have done, and I did not put them on this resume. I have it on a master resume, a master list somewhere else, but here I only list what is relevant. So this is my current working resume, and right now I tutor. So I think that is very relevant because I can work with students, so I write that on the top. That's where I am currently. And then I write my auditing experience and my business ownership experience because that's what's relevant to auditing, to public accounting, to being a CPA. I did not list any of my restaurant experience. If I didn't have some of this filler, I would list my restaurant experience, but I would list more what is relevant to the field of accounting, like how I counted a certain amount of money, how I dealt with a certain amount of customers on a basis. Very quantified, but you want to consider your audience. List only relevant work and volunteer experience, and if it's not relevant, find a way to make it relevant. When I used to list restaurant experience, I would say I counted upward of $10,000 in cash every single day, reconciled statements when I would have to put the cash away and compare them to the receipts I had. I focused on that, while if I applied to a bar job, I'd say I dealt with in customer service. So really cater to the job. Also, I think a great tip is look at the job posting, because in the job posting, a lot of times they'll have specific qualifications they want. They'll say, have this proficiency. So then just list how you have that proficiency in another job. Answer their question. Make sure that they know, okay, this person's qualified. It's an extremely easy way to make sure that, to make you stand out, and B, to make sure that you get an interview. If you stand out, if you're already listing that you have everything they want, you'll most likely get the interview. And then, again, have different resumes for different jobs. Do not use a restaurant job for a finance job. Use a restaurant resume for a finance resume. You just keep it separate. Let's talk about education. So I put the education up top because I was looking for a job out of college or an internship out of college. And then you want to list the degrees you're getting. So if you're getting a double major or a single major, with your expected graduation dates, your GPA, and then I like doing cumulative GPA, and then also your major or upper division GPA, whatever is higher, if it's appropriate. Your majors and the universities you've attended. If you are a transfer student, do put the college you transferred from, if you're from a community college. If you're a high school student, I don't think you necessarily have to put the high school you're from unless it's filler. But if you're a transfer student from a community college, yeah, put that, especially if you have an associate's. It adds to your story. Explain why you went to community college in a positive light. List relevant certifications and list awards. So right now I am not certified, but I received a multitude of scholarships, which I have another video about. You can see it on this link here. I'll list it below. But list your scholarships. This is, if you have any scholarships or any awards, if it be athletic, be it scholarships, be it academic, any kind of award, list it, because that's a talking point. Remember, the resume is going to get you in the door, and also when you're doing your interview, someone's going to look at your resume. Your future boss is going to look at it, or a recruiter, and they're going to ask you questions. If they see your lots of awards, they'll ask you about how you got an award, or how you liked transferring colleges, or why did you start at community college. These are all talking points, and it makes your dialogue more natural and better for a better interview. So highly recommend listing all of this information. Next, let's talk about work experience. So this is obviously going to be the most detailed, the most important section of your resume. So you want to list your jobs from most recent to least recent. You want to have that chronological order. I've seen it messed up where you have different dates and it just looks sloppy. So don't do that. It's an easy way to make sure that your resume looks neat and organized. List your title, your start date, what city you worked in, what state you worked in, and where the job was located. You want to use specific action phrases, so show what you've accomplished. So this is really important. I'm going to dive into it on my resume after I talk about quantifying your experiences as well. You want to be convincing without being vague. You want to use new words, and you want to try to keep your descriptions lengths consistent. So let's talk about that. Let's look at some ways I've done that. So right now I own a tutoring business. I go to college before I start working this fall at a Big Four accounting firm in auditing. So I write. I'm doing everything I write in the PowerPoint. So just so you know, I'm not making up any of this stuff. This is right here. Like, this is what I use in real life, and it worked for me. My business is called Expert Tutoring. It's in Woodland Hills. I started it in February 2013, and it's until the current time because I'm still working. I'm still tutoring. See here, I educate 5 to 10 college students a week in accounting, statistics, and calculus. See how I quantified it. I could have said a lot of college students, or I could have said works with many college students in subjects. But I keep it very specific because it gives a talking point. Someone can visualize me working with 5 to 10 college students. It seems feasible. They know what I specialize in accounting, statistics, and calculus. That tells so much more information, and it lets for so many more talking points, because someone could say, oh, I tutored statistics in college, or how do you tutor 10 college students a week while still taking a full course load? It's much more interesting once you quantify it and make it more specific. Help more than 30 struggling students improve their grades to a B level or higher. How did I succeed in my job? So someone can now ask me, oh, tell me a story about one of your students who was struggling. So now I have talking points. I do that with every single aspect of my resume. We'll go down to volunteer development later. For when I owned a recording studio, I directed 4 employees and managed their day-to-day operations with close oversight. I said 4 employees. People can visualize that. Imagine me managing 4 employees. When I worked at Deloitte as an intern, I wrote 1 of 7 CSUN students selected for the internship program. It lets people see how selective it is. Be specific. It really will help you. Be as specific as possible. So let's keep going. I want you to remember throughout this entire process, anything you list on your resume is a talking point for an interview. Make it interesting. Make it something you're excited about. Oh, lastly, over here, if you look from far away, I don't keep descriptions bleeding over. It's always one line. Keep that specific to one line. It's always one line. It doesn't go too far. I think this is my longest line. And everything else is relatively the same size. It looks cleaner. You don't want it bleeding over too much. So let's talk about volunteer and professional development. I used a similar format to the work experience, similar descriptions. But here's where you want to show off qualities that your job is looking for. Maybe leadership, initiative, community involvement, whatever your firm or your potential job finds important. And you can find that on their websites. You want to list here. Like I knew when I applied to Deloitte, they were very large into leadership and into taking initiative. So I listed things that showed off my leadership skills and my initiative skills. Remember, this again is talking points. So write something that you are excited about, and it will help with your interview, because then you can just talk about that for 30 minutes when they're interviewing you. You don't want to talk about what your strengths or weaknesses are. You want to talk about how you helped out your community, or how you were on a swim team, or whatever was really interesting to you, or how you were in a band. People will find that more interesting, and it'll stick with them. So you can see here, right here, I have tons of volunteer work, but I only list the most relevant and what I'm the most excited about currently. I mean, I volunteer in my church. I'm wearing the shirt, the Challenged Athletes Foundation. I volunteered for the Revlon Run. I've done tons of volunteer work, but right now I'm really interested in my Business Honors Association, where I'm the president of for fall 2015 to current, and I have a lot of history with. I write, raise membership by 42% from 60 to 85 members. See how specific that is. See how I can talk about all the strategies I use to raise membership. I quantified everything. I increased sponsorship revenues by 1,000%. That is just by taking the revenues received last semester to this semester. It looks great, but I'm just quantifying simple information and making it look really good. You can do this too. Every single line here, when someone reads it, they can ask me about it, and I can go on for 5 or 15 minutes about how I did something in this organization. That's what makes a great resume. You want to talk about the things that you're excited about. You want to steer the conversation to things you're interested in. If you're talking about things you're not interested in, you're going to blow your interview. This also looks impressive. So obviously you don't have to be a president of an association. You can do this with anything you're interested in. Then let's talk about other content. So I'm not a huge fan of other content. This includes skills, hobbies, proficiencies. I think you should only really list it if it's really impressive. So like if you can speak 2 languages or 3 languages or 5 languages, if you can program, if you have skills that no one else has and is relevant to, the skill is relevant to your job, then that is something you would list. Other than that, don't list that you are skilled in Microsoft Office or you have customer service skills. It just looks like filler. It looks like you don't have enough to write about yourself, that you're not that interesting, and it's really going to put your resume on the bottom of the pile. Some people like putting like some hobbies if you don't have a lot of work experience or volunteer experience, something that will differentiate you in the marketplace. But try to find other things to write about. Only do other if you have a very impressive skill that you want to highlight. Other than that, lastly, I want to talk about form. So form, I'm talking about how your resume is going to be in the real world. So after you have good content, after you've had good format, and after you've made sure that your resume is written for your audience, you want to have good form. I always put my resumes on good stock paper. It's cardstock, it's thin cardstock, I get it off-white, and then I hand them out that way because they're different than everyone else's resume. It looks like I care about getting the job. Obviously, I do care about getting the job or the internship. I really did. But if you spend that little extra money on nicer paper, it really differentiates you. It shows that you care. It's going to feel better than all of the thin paper in the resume pile. Edit in Word and send in PDF. So when you're attaching your resume, don't send it in Word. Send it in PDF. You don't want them to be able to edit your resume. It shows a little more professionalism if you send it in PDF. And it looks nicer too. It's easier to open. I like to attach resumes to all of my email correspondence with recruiters or potential job leads. When I am talking to anyone that is working in the firm I want to work at, I would send a resume, a PDF resume on the email so they could forward it to someone who could help me get the job. Always do that. It makes it easier. Also for the recruiters, if they don't have your resume or they lost your resume, make sure that they have it. Send a bunch of, whenever you're sending an email, don't like spam these people, but whenever you're sending an email or they ask you a question, make sure your resume is attached. It's a nice, considerate way to make sure that you stay relevant to them. And then keep your resumes neat, clean, and unwrinkled in a portfolio. So if you're at a career fair or if you're going to an interview, keep your resumes in a portfolio neat and clean. Don't make them wrinkly. Don't carry them outside. They'll get bent. It just doesn't look good. You don't want that to be the reason that you lose a job. So let's just overview everything one last time. We talked about format today, right? We talked about margins, keeping your margins narrow. We talked about spacing and tabs, fitting as much information on as possible. We talked about designating and formatting your paper for your audience. Make sure if you're applying for an accounting job, don't use your waiter resume. If you're applying for a job as a waiter, don't use your accounting resume. Talked about content. Make sure you list your education, your work experience, and your volunteer and professional development. I don't encourage listing other information unless it's very significant or very impressive. Also, make sure that you're using action words. Make sure you're not using the same word over again. Show off your vocabulary. And make sure you're quantifying your experiences and making them very specific so you have talking points. And lastly, form. Make sure if you are sending out your resumes, you use better paper than regular paper. Use some cardstock. Use different colors like off-white paper. Send PDF files and make sure that it looks clean when you're printing it out. Make sure that everyone can look at it and it's aesthetically pleasing. And when you're sending out emails or have correspondence with potential job leads, always attach your resume. Those are all of my tips. They've worked for me. I hope they work for you. If you have any questions or want me to do any other segments on any parts of this, just write to me and I'll be happy to do that. Please subscribe to Business Core Tutoring. Again, I'm Devon Coombs, and I'm always happy to make any video that will help any one of you. So just reach out to me, and I'll gladly make you a video. Thank you again for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.